Hi there. If you're looking for a data science job in 2025, the game has completely changed. You cannot just build another Titanic project or do some basic data exploration. You need a project which is going to stand out, and you need these three key features if you want your project to stand out. The first, you should include some AI agents. The second, you should include some personal touch. And third is you should show that this project is leading to some value. So in this video, I'm going to show you a project which will include all these three key elements. We are going to use AI agents to analyze LinkedIn data. So it is going to show you on how to use AI agents. It is going to show you on how to make it personal, because you can take this project and also apply it to your own LinkedIn data. And third is it is going to lead to a lot of value, as you will see that you can generate a lot of insights on your own LinkedIn data. So let's get started. So this video is organized into 4 chapters. So first of all, I'll be starting by explaining you the strategy of how we are going to analyze the LinkedIn data. And then I'm going to show you on how to get your own LinkedIn data. And once we have the data, we are going to use an AI agent, which is going to convert the data into very powerful insights. And I'll be also explaining you a Python code walkthrough of a very important functionality called as text clustering, which I've used in this video. So let me first start by the strategy on how we are going to solve this problem. So first of all, let me just give you a snapshot of how the LinkedIn data looks like. So LinkedIn has got a lot of data, but we are going to take the data which is related to the connections. And in this data, we have the name of the company, we have the position, as well as we have the date on which you got connected to that position. And as an example, I'm connected to data scientists from Google, as well as I'm connected to data scientists from NVIDIA. So the data would look something like this, which is shown on the screen. It has got the name of the company, it has got the position, as well as it will have all the dates on which I got connected to all these data science positions. Now, you may notice one thing, that the company name is standardized, and this is because the name of the company is coming from LinkedIn data, and you do not have to fill it up manually. Similarly, the dates are also standardized. However, the position data is not standardized, and you can see that all these three positions are related to data scientist, but all these three have got different descriptions. And the reason for this is that the position data is manually filled in by the connection and is not coming from a standardized database. So we need a way in order to standardize this position data. And one very elegant way to do so is to use clustering. And we can put all the similar positions into one cluster using text clustering. And this is going to create a new column which will have the cluster which is related to the position of your connection. Now let me talk about the insights which we are going to generate. And one of the very obvious candidate is the connection on date field. So we can use this connected on date field to analyze the number of connections, and the visualization for such an insight could be a line chart which can show the number of connections by date. And such a visualization can help us to understand were there any dates on which we had a spike in the number of connections. Now we are going to take the clustering column, and we can also plot the clustering results as a scatter plot. So each cluster in this scatter plot could represent a connection profile. So for example, we can have a cluster for data scientist, and we can have another cluster for data analyst. And the size of these clusters can also indicate the profile with which one is most connected with. Now, you might also observe that the company and the cluster also forms an hierarchy. So these two fields are a very good candidate for some hierarchical visualization. And this hierarchical visualization is essentially a tree style visualization, where you can have the levels of the tree as the company as well as the cluster, and the node of the tree could indicate the number of connections which one has given the company and the position. Now let's zoom out and see the overall strategy. And so here you can see that this strategy is going to help us analyze the LinkedIn data, and this strategy is based on creating some additional columns as well as doing some clustering as well as getting some visualization. So now let's go to the second chapter, which is related to the data. Now in the LinkedIn profile, you can go to this data privacy, and in the data privacy you can get a copy of your data, and you can select to download all the data, and you can request a new archive, and in few minutes or hours you will receive a link to your data. Now this archive will have lots of files, but what we are interested in is a file called as connection.csv, which has got all the data which is related to your connections. Now when you open this connection node, you will see that you will have multiple columns such as the company profile as well as the connected on, and I've removed some other columns such as emails for privacy reasons. Now I've also created a column called as count, which I've set it to 1 and which we are going to use it in further analysis. Now we are all set for the third stage, which is converting this data into insights, and we are going to use an AI agent for that. So here I'm going to use my own AI agent called as datajarvis.ai, and you can also try it out. So here I'm going to first of all select the data which we have just saved it, which is the data on the connections. And here you can see that this data has got the name of the company, it has got the position name, as well as it has got the connection details, as well as it has got this column called as count. So let us now add this data to the platform so that we can start chatting with it. So let us now start chatting with it, and we can ask a first question such that give me a line graph of connected on, which is the date of the connection, as well as give the sum of the count. And let's see what the agent has to reply back with. All right, so the agent has given a nice looking line chart. And here you can see in this line chart that we have on the x-axis, we have the date of the connection, and on the y-axis, we have the number of connections which were made on that date. And we can see that on certain dates, there has been a spike in the connection compared to other dates. And this corresponds to some of the events which I have participated in on these dates, which has helped me get more connections compared to other dates. So this itself is a very powerful insight. All right, so now let us ask another question such that show me a bar chart or a bar graph of the position and the sum of the count. And let us see what the agent is going to come back with. And here we see the response from the agent, and here we see a bar chart which has got the position on the x-axis, and it has also got the number of count on the y-axis. And here you can see that there are lots and lots of position, and this is because the position is not standardized. So here we can see that we have different descriptions for the same position. You have a chief executive officer and a CEO, which are both the same positions, but they are indicated as different bars in this bar chart. So essentially this confirms what we have seen earlier, that this information is not standardized, and it would be very useful to standardize this information. So as we have decided in the strategy, let us take the clustering approach to standardize this position data. And we can ask a question such that make a text clustering of the position, and let's go for 10 clusters. So in a while, you'll see that the agent is going to come back with a response. And here you can see that each and every position has been assigned a cluster. In addition, you also see that there are two new columns which correspond to the dimensional reduction, so that we are going to use that two columns to make a scatter plot. So here you see this nice looking scatter plot, And we can try to understand what does the cluster 0 mean by hovering over it. And here you can see that this corresponds to the position which are related to the founder or the co-founder or a CEO. So essentially our clustering process has worked as it has grouped all the similar looking positions in the same cluster. Now, instead of manually eyeballing each cluster, let us directly ask the agent questions as that to give the interpretation of the cluster. And we can ask to make a one-line interpretation, which is going to help us understand what does these clusters mean. And voila, we have the results, and we can see here that the cluster 0 indeed corresponds to the C-suite as well as the founding executive leadership roles, as we have seen earlier while we were hovering over the scatter plot. But in addition, we also see one-line description for each and every cluster. So this is a pretty powerful and pretty amazing job which the agent is doing. So now let us do one thing. Let us take the data of the clustering results, and then we are going to add this additional column which is going to give us the cluster interpretation. So let us first of all take this data into an Excel file, and then we are going to add a new column, and which is going to be called as the cluster theme, which will correspond to the cluster interpretation. So let us now create a new tab which is called as cluster interpretation, and we can take the data from the agent and we are going to paste it in this particular new sheet, and I'm going to convert this data into two new columns. So the first column is going to have the cluster name, and the second one is going to have the cluster interpretation. In addition, I'll also just clean up the first column so that it matches to the result of what we have just obtained in the clustering table. And we can use a vertical lookup, which is going to get the clustering theme based on the name of the cluster. In fact, what I'll do is I'll also create a shorter version of the cluster interpretation so that we have a nice looking shorter description rather than a very long description. And voila, we see that we have this cluster theme, and we can save this into a CSV file. And let us now go back to the agent, and here we are going to add the file which we have just created, and here you will see the data which has got the cluster name as well as now it has got the theme of the cluster. And let us now save it to the agent, and we can now start chatting with this particular data. So I can go in the chat mode, and I'm going to ask to create a bar chart of the cluster theme and the sum of the count. And voila, we see that the agent has come out with this nice looking bar chart, but this time the chart is much more clean, it is much more readable. And you can see that I have this 10 cluster themes on the x-axis, and we can hover over it to see what are the positions to which I'm most connected with. So this is pretty interesting. It is giving pretty powerful insights, and I can use this insight to create my personalized post so that it appeals to all these connection profiles which I'm connected with. Now let us ask an agent to make a tree visualization as we have decided in the strategy, and we can have the levels of the tree as the company as well as the cluster theme, and we can have the sum of the count as the node. And voila, here we see a nice looking tree chart, and here we can see that we have the company as well as we have the position as well as we have the number of connections as the node. And let us expand it, and let us just go to one particular example, and here I'm going to take the company AWS, and here we can see that the different profiles to which I'm connected with. So this is a very exciting visualization to see the LinkedIn connections. And it also gives me very powerful insights based on the type of profiles which I'm connected with. Now let us go to the fourth chapter, which is around the Python code walkthrough. And here I'll explain you the Python code which has generated this very powerful text clustering. So let me first of all start by explaining you the strategy of text clustering. So we are going to use text clustering on the position data, and which is a completely unstructured text. So we need to pass that to an embedding model, which is going to convert this unstructured text into a numerical representation, which is also called as embedding or vectors. And these embeddings can then be passed to a clustering algorithm such as k-means. And this approach ensures that all the similar looking position text are going to be placed in the same cluster. Now, this embedding is also a very high dimensional embedding. It will give a very high number of numerical representation, but we can convert that into just 2 dimensions using a PCA technique, which is a dimensional representation technique, and then we can make a scatter plot where we can visualize all the positions in a nice looking visual. Now let us go to the Python code, and here we will need first of all an OpenAI key as well as the location to your connection data. And we are going to import some Python packages, and here you see that I have packages which are corresponding to k-means, as well as it has also got packages which are related to this OpenAI large language model. And let us first start by reading the data in a data frame. And here you can see that we have data which is related to the company as well as the position, as well as we have got the connected on date. And here we are going to use a text embedding model called as ADA002, and we are going to create an lambda function which is going to take input as the text. And we are going to call this OpenAI large language model, and we are going to convert this text into an embedding. Now we can use this function to be called for each and every line in the data frame. So here I'm using a technique called as applied technique, which is going to return the embedding, and we are going to store that embedding in a column called as embedding, and we are also going to convert that into an array called as matrix. So here you can see that we have embedding for each and every position, which is converted into a numerical representation. And the result of these embeddings are also stored in this variable called as matrix. And this variable has got 383 positions, as well as the embedding size is quite high. It is 1536. So let us now apply the k-means clustering algorithms to these embeddings. And here we are going to make 10 clusters using k-means algorithm. And we are going to assign the cluster to each and every line. And here you see the cluster number for each and every line. And let us now also take this high dimensional matrix and convert it into a 2-dimensional using this PCA technique. So here you see the 2 dimensions of the PCA, and we can also assign all the output of PCA as well as the cluster to a new data frame called as df_out, which will have this 2 dimensions as well as the cluster for each and every position in the data. Let us now also assign back all the values back to our original data frame. So here we have our original data frame, and we are assigning back the embedding as well as the reduced dimensional as well as the clustering results. Now we can use the data frame df to make a scatter plot, and we can use plotly method called as scatter, and we are going to use the 2-dimensional of the dimensional reduction to make this scatter plot. Alright, so here you have this nice looking scatter plot, and you can hover over these dots and you can see the different clusters as well as all the different positions which are belonging to each and every dot. So this is pretty interesting and pretty powerful. So in this video, you just saw on how to create a very interesting project which has got the 3 key elements. First, it has got AI agents. Second, you can make it personal. You can do the same project on your own LinkedIn data. And third, you can see that this type of project can lead to a lot of value, such as you can know what are the types of profile you are most connected with, and this can help you create some targeted post on your LinkedIn. So if you like this video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like and make some comments on how you've used this particular project to customize it to your own LinkedIn data. And see you soon in another exciting video.